I've been a family financial advisor now for over 20 years. And candidly, I think one of the most valuable things I can do for my clients is give them perspective of what life is like for the goal that they're setting. Let me give you, for instance, fewer than 10% of all Americans will retire with $1 million. But yet, a lot of folks with $1 million say, hey, Azul, you've told me that the 5 years before retirement are so important. I've got $1 million now, but if I wait another 5 years, I'll have $2 million. And maybe that sacrifice is worth it. Or, if I wait 7 years, maybe I'll have $3 million, who knows? And so me being able to share with them, here's what life is like for a family with $3 million versus $1 million is really important information for them, because they're about to trade 3, 5, 7 years of their life to go from this point to that point. But maybe this point isn't so valuable. Maybe that 7 years of their life, maybe that more likely 10 years of their life is better spent just enjoying the fruits of their labor, enjoying what they've worked so hard for. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you, what does it look like when you have $3 million? And I'm going to contrast it a little bit with $1 million, because that's the case that I just laid out here at the open, and I think it'll be helpful. Okay, earlier I did a video on what's it like for $5 million, and there I kind of used the joke, you are the poorest rich man in the room. And I say that in jest, there is some truth to that, right? I mean, clearly you're going to have a comfortable life with $5 million. But you're not going to be hanging out with the people with the private jets and things like that, which is, I'm not saying people should want to do that. I'm just sharing that. So $3 million is, I wouldn't say that you're the poorest rich person. I might say that you're the richest average person, because life looks very much like it would at $1 million. You have less things to worry about because you have a buffer, right? If the market goes down, you've got that buffer. You still know that you're going to have a roof over your head. You're going to have food on the table, and you're going to still have some luxuries in life, right? You may be going coach to Europe instead of first class if the market corrects. And the market can drop 50% in the great financial crisis. The market dropped peak to trough almost 60%. So somebody's $3 million could drop to $1.5 million, and that's going to feel very painful. But it's going to feel a different kind of painful than somebody that had $1 million that saw their account drop to $500,000. Right now, all of a sudden, you're wondering, am I going to be able to stay in my house? Am I going to have to sell my house and rent? And there's these tougher trade-offs that people with $3 million probably don't have to worry about. Also, folks tend to build this net worth later in life. So oftentimes, if somebody does have $3 million, sending their kids to the best school in town is a lot easier to do. You don't have to take up a second job to help pay the tuition for your child's private school. And so it's nice, it kind of takes the edge off. But again, people with $3 million tend to be, their kids are already in high school or maybe even away from high school. So from that standpoint, it doesn't make a big difference. It might for the grandkids, right? It's a lot easier to do some tax advantage things from an educational standpoint for your grandkids than frankly it is for your own kids, particularly if you have $3 million. You can set up 529 accounts, which are educational accounts that the money will grow tax-free. And when the kids go to college, as long as college or trade school, as long as it's a qualified expense, there's no taxes owed on that money. It's a lot easier to do things on the education front for the grandkids than for the kids. But getting back to the person's life, again, it's not that different. Oftentimes, people stay in the same house or in the same neighborhood, when they had $1 million and $3 million. Now, and I want you to stay to the end, because at the end, I'm going to do something I seldom do, which is I'm going to share my direct thoughts on, is it worth working an extra 5 or 7 or more likely 10 years in order to go from 1 million to 3 million? So stay with me. So, vacations, you probably have plenty of money to go on vacation. Again, you may not be going first class. You may be going coach, but for sure, one nice trip a year, maybe even 2 or 3, that's very doable. You hear me talk about buying used cars instead of new cars. Well, maybe Azul doesn't have to harp on that if you've got $3 million, although I can't help myself, I probably would. But again, it's your money. You do what you want. It's just for most people, it's the least sacrificial way to save some money and spend it on experiences, which tend to drive more of the happiness factor. So we talked about education. We talked about travel. We talked some on home, right? Oftentimes you're in the same home. However, it's a lot easier to do a remodel on your house, maybe every 10 years, just to keep it up with the current trends. Although, doing a house remodel project is very disruptive. And so there are people that like to do that every decade, but probably every 12 to 15 years. But what I want to talk about the remodel is, when folks are looking at remodels, there tends to be a good, a better, and a best. And maybe it's $100,000 for a really good remodel, and it's $150,000 for best. It's a lot easier to invest that extra $50,000 when you have $3 million. And then there's also the types of remodels that you do that when it comes time to sell the house is going to help boost the price. And then there's the things that you do just because you really like doing it. Maybe you have a wine closet, which I guess could be converted into a pantry. So that's not a good example. Or a hot tub, or you like to grill outside in the summer, and so you pay a gas technician to come out and hook your gas grill up to your natural gas line, so you're not lugging around propane tanks, right? Nobody's going to pay more for your house because you've got your grill is hooked up to the natural gas line, but it might be something that you want because it's just a convenience. So you have a lot more conveniences. It's also, you tend to see more gifting to adult children with folks that are at this level. So now the question comes, hopefully I've been able to paint a picture of what that looks like. And hopefully that picture looks like it's not that much different. It's just we're taking a little bit of stress off of the edge, and you have more certainty that you can do some of these things that you might enjoy doing every year, as opposed to maybe the market corrects and you go 2 or 3 years without that trip to Southeast Asia, South America, or you hold on to your car for an extra 5 years. People with $3 million don't have to do it. So here's the question. I promised at the end I was going to share my thoughts on this. Giving up 5, 7, 10 years of your life to go from one level of financial independence to another, what you're giving up, let's call it 7 years of healthy, active time, is incredibly valuable. And what's the marginal value difference between being financially independent at $1 million and $3 million? I can't make that decision for you, but only you can do that. But for me, that marginal benefit really pales in comparison to the value of if you could retire at 55 or 58 or even 62 at $1 million versus holding out for $3 million. So there, I've kind of done it. I've shared my direct thoughts on this as well. And the next thing I want you to think about doing is watching this video that talks about 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can and take advantage of that first $1 million.